All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're breaking down a really brilliant analysis of lower body biomechanics, straight from our sources today. If you are hunting for that insider secret to functional strength and a real physical transformation, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to look at literally the only two glute exercises you actually need to build serious power, protect your joints, and develop a completely balanced physique.
So let me ask you a question to kick things off. Have you been doing squats for years, adding wheat to the bar every single month, but you still find yourself super frustrated by a total lack of lower body progress? Like, you're putting in the serious effort, you're doing the heavy lifting, but when you catch your profile view in the mirror, it's still just totally flat. Look, you aren't alone here, and today we're going to see exactly why that happens. Moving into section 1, the neglected engine. The gluteus maximus is actually the absolute largest muscle in the human body. It's this massive powerhouse responsible for basically all the power you generate when extending your hips, whether you're trying to jump higher, run faster, or lift heavy. But for almost everyone, this giant engine is completely deactivated. Why? Well, mostly because we spend about 8 hours a day just sitting right on it.
And there are some serious hidden physical costs to these deactivated, or what we call sleepy glutes. When this massive muscle is asleep at the wheel, the rest of your body is forced to pick up the slack. You end up with overloaded hamstrings. You get this unexplained lower back pain simply because your back is doing work it literally wasn't designed for. Even your knees might start hurting during everyday movements. Training this specific muscle actually fixes structural problems you probably didn't even realize you had.
All right, section 2, the squat myth. We really need to challenge a super stubborn, widely held gym belief here. For decades, we've all been told that heavy squats are the ultimate, all-in-one, holy grail for complete glute development. But the actual biomechanics? Yet they tell a completely different story.
Just think about the number 180. There are some huge guys out there in the gym who can squat 180 kilos. That is nearly 400 pounds. Yet they still have a totally flat back end. How is that functionally possible? It's because during a squat, sure, the glute muscle is used, but it's never pushed hard enough to actually give it a real physiological reason to grow.
And here's exactly why that happens. In a standard squat, your quads, your hamstrings, and your lower back basically steal the vast majority of the load. They're doing all the heavy lifting. The glute gets reduced to this mere supporting actor, a totally secondary role. If you want real results, you absolutely need targeted exercises where the glute is the undisputed protagonist. It needs to be the star of the show.
So the crucial takeaway here is understanding how muscle growth actually works on a mechanical level. If you want a muscle to fully develop, you've got to load it in its shortest position, which gives you maximum contraction, and you have to load it in its longest position, which gives you a maximum stretch. If you leave just one of these out, you are literally leaving half of your potential growth on the table.
Which leads us perfectly into section 3, the hip thrust for maximum contraction. Now, I know. The hip thrust definitely has a certain stigma in the gym, and yeah, it can feel a little awkward to set up. But we have to vigorously defend it today, because there's a very good reason every serious coach programs this. Its isolation and activation of the glutes are just completely unmatched.
Let's actually look at the data. The hip thrust advantage is pretty incredible. Studies comparing it directly to the squat over a 9-week period show it generates the exact same muscle growth, but, and this is huge, it causes only half the wear and tear on your lower back and joints. Plus, if you absolutely hate setting up a heavy barbell in the middle of a super crowded gym, you can just do a single leg dumbbell version. Just rest your upper back on a bench, pop a dumbbell on your working leg, and boom, you're set up in like 30 seconds. But listen, technique is absolutely everything here. There are 3 critical fixes that separate a real muscle-building set from a useless ego-lifting set. First up, place your foot so your shin is perfectly vertical at the top of the movement. If it's too far away, you hit the hamstrings. Too close, you hit the quads. Second, tense your core to keep your back perfectly flat. Seriously, do not arch your lower back. And third, the real magic happens when you pause and squeeze for 1 to 2 seconds at the very top. Oh, and there's one more insider trick for the hip thrust, actually popularized by biomechanics expert Brett Contreras. He says, tuck your chin to your chest and look at your knees the whole time. I know it sounds strange, and okay, it might look a little funny, but keeping your chin tucked like that essentially locks your spine. It guarantees the glute does the heavy lifting and completely stops your lower back from taking over. All right, moving to section 4, the Bulgarian split squat for total stretch. We've covered maximum contraction, so now we need that total stretch. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. These are absolutely brutal. A single proper set will feel like you're doing 3 exercises at once, but they are absolutely necessary because they cover that crucial other half of the growth equation.
To master the Bulgarian split squat and actually target the glutes, you need a few technique adjustments. First, as you drop down, you have to lean your torso slightly forward. This is non-negotiable. Second, push back up using only your front heel. And third, treat that back leg strictly as a kickstand for stability. Do not push off with it.
When we compare our approaches here, that slight forward torso lean we just talked about, it literally multiplies the stretch. Because of this, using medium weights with perfect, controlled form on the way down is going to force significantly more muscle growth than using heavy weights with sloppy form. Adding weight is strictly secondary on this one. The deep stretch and the control on the descent, that is what actually forces the muscle to grow.
Okay, section 5, your action plan. We have our 2 exercises. Now, you might be wondering, why are we stopping at just 2? Well, it's because these 2 perfectly executed exercises completely replace a mediocre, exhausting 6-exercise circuit. All those endless cable kickbacks and mini bend warm-ups everyone does, honestly, they're mostly just decoration. They just do not move the needle like these 2 do. So here's how you actually structure this in your week. You want to train this sequence twice a week, and order matters. Start with the hip thrust. Why? Because it requires the most outright strength to achieve that maximum contraction. Once your glutes are fully activated and pre-fatigued from that, then you move to the Bulgarian split squat to achieve the total stretch. It's a perfectly balanced biomechanical 1-2 punch. Let's talk timeline really quick, because managing your expectations is absolutely key to sticking with this. During weeks 1 to 3, you're probably not going to see visual changes, but you will experience increased strength and massive lower back pain relief as that muscle finally wakes up. Weeks 4 to 5, that's all about mastering the technique and feeling that deep mind-muscle connection. It really isn't until week 6 to 8 that you'll start seeing undeniable, visible physical changes in the mirror.
Now, as you progress through those weeks, you have to follow the golden rule here. More control and a deeper range of motion come first, adding weight comes later. If you rush it and add kilos too soon just to satisfy your ego, your body is inevitably going to shift the load right back to your quads and lower back, and your progress will instantly stall out. You've got to leave the ego at the door for this one. So I'll leave you with this provocative question to chew on. Are you ready to drop your mediocre, exhausting 6-exercise routine for just 2 exercises that actually work? Sometimes less really is more, especially when it's precisely targeted based on real biomechanics. This minimalist, high-impact approach can completely revolutionize your training. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I highly, highly encourage you to apply this exact logic to your very next workout.